Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite and original African dictator. I have to start by apologizing because I haven't been up to it in terms of podcasts because there's a lot going on in the world right now. Either Palestine, Israel, all these world affairs that I have to deal with. Even though I am leader of a micronation, I still have to be involved. And so today I decided to take some rest. It's Sunday, the 16th of May. And I am looking forward to tomorrow because in England, people are going to be able to hug. And there are lots of Laughter Republic citizens who will be able to hug. This is my fourth podcast where I am podcasting from Baghdad, Laughter Republic. And I have to say to you, because of the problem with power supply, it is very likely that we might have some technical difficulties. But my people will make sure that we are back on air. If the internet freezes in any shape or form, it is because of the power supply. Look, with no further ado, I am here to introduce you to my next guest for episode 46, If Comedians Rule the World. He is a fantastic racist comedian, the most racist comedian on earth. I know that for a fact. Even the way he looks, you can tell. For those of you who are going to be watching this on YouTube, you will agree with me. For those of you who are just going to be listening to it, I'm sure you would want to see what this guy looks like. You see, the pandemic has devastated the comedy industry. There's no two ways about it. But there are some comedians who have done pretty well as a result of it. This man called Jeff Innocent, he needs no introduction. I mean, if you are a comedy lover or a comedian and you've never heard of Jeff Innocent, then you do not understand what comedy is really about. I am here to introduce you Jeff Innocent. But before I do that, and I'm hoping that the technology works, I just want to show you this video that went viral during the pandemic. And when you see Jeff Innocent, it is obvious he doesn't even know how to use any technology. He was the last person to use Instagram, to join Instagram and was up. And actually, I remember meeting Jeff many years ago. He might not remember this. 12 years ago, before I started performing comedy, I was a civilian before I became an army officer. And I met him on Facebook and we interacted. I never knew anything about the comedy industry. I am so excited to show you this video. I am really so excited. So please do bear with me while I show you this video.
I'm not actually racist, by the way. Just look hugely fucking racist. I'm not showing off, but I'm probably the most racist-looking comedian on the entire comedy circuit in this price range. Whatever I wear, I look racist. There's no escape for me. I could be standing here wearing a sari and a turban. I'd still look fucking racist, you know that? There's no escape. But what's funny, I always think, what's poetically ironic about me looking so fucking aggressively racist, my wife is black. We do that sort of thing in London, but let me just say this, not easy if you look like me, having a black wife. There are certain things we can't do, sadly, because of my appearance. You know, I couldn't, for example, chase her down the street. Yeah, fucking enjoy that image for a while, why don't you? Hey? Bless her. And you know, it might be, oh no, she's gone to work and left her phone indoors, I better chase her. But they don't see the phone, do they? Just see me. I've always had black girlfriends, just one of those sort of blokes, really, black wives, black girlfriend, and from exotic places, fucking hell, you know, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone. Here's the beauty, I haven't even had to leave the East End of London. I might be the world's laziest sex tourist. Just open the curtain, yep, fine, that'll do, yeah, that's great. I've got a lot of kids as well, all brown, obviously, but yeah, more fucking brown kids, yeah. And I live in the London Borough of Newham, which, according to a recent poll, the most recent poll, was voted the 29th happiest borough to live in London that's only got 30 fucking boroughs. Those poor fuckers in Brent, that's who I feel sorry for. Get down there. But the London Borough of Newham, first place ever in the entire history of Britain where, because of immigration, it became more black than white. Early 90s, before Brixton, before Harleston, Newham was the place. I was there. Not complaining, obviously. And, no, what I mean is I couldn't, because in many ways, with all my kids and that, I've probably contributed rather significantly to those very statistics. But what it means is whenever I am in the company of racist people, which happens quite a lot to me, it may come as no surprise to you. I mean, not only do they think I'm one of them, I think they think I'm their leader. They follow me around in the street. I see them. I think what it is there's so many foreign people in London. They must see me and think, oh wow, fuck me, let's go over there and have a bit of a racist chat. You know, they must think, look at that, a proper 20th century racist bloke who's possibly been cryogenically frozen in the 20th century. We're brought back to life now so that millennials can see what a proper fucking racist looks like. But because they think I'm one of them, they're over-familiar. You get that, don't you? When people think you're racist, over-familiar, I get, all right, Jeff, you still living in East London? Yeah, mate, I am. What do you mean? Well, you must be the only white person in East London. I go, mate, I'm the only white person in my fucking house.
You have to say, you have to agree with me that was really fantastic. Well, let me introduce you to Jeff Innocent.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was a fantastic introduction and welcome. And funny, watching that, I haven't seen that for quite some time. And obviously I haven't performed it for even longer. But I was looking at myself rather critically to decide whether I'm telling that joke correctly or not. Isn't that funny? And I actually made myself laugh then because I hadn't seen that. But yes, that viral video, that's in some ways been life-changing, actually. I have to say, how ironic that in a year that I don't perform, more people get to see me do comedy than if I am performing via this video that went viral. It's changed my life. I've become a local celebrity. President, I have to tell you, a lot of young comedians, I think part of their plan now is to have viral videos, and I understand that. Never been part of my plan. I remember being in the dressing room and one of the younger comedians saying, look, Jeff, you've gone viral. You've gone viral. And I didn't even know what that meant. I said, what's that mean? He went, no, man, look. And then what happened is for the entire lockdown, and even now, it's still giving. Wherever I go, almost on a daily basis, people will stop and go, you're that guy. I walk into shops, you're that guy. Where I go. So it's been fun. It's been fun. I'm quite proud of the piece. Often, you know, when you do TV, you look at it and you think, oh no, I haven't really nailed it. But quite pleased with that piece as well. So yeah, I've become a bit of a local celebrity with it. I haven't earned any money out of it, but you know, it's been good. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Look, I am really excited for you because, with all respect, you're an older comic, like you said.
I am, yeah.
Instagram and Facebook, old school comic. How did it actually feel when you found out that you'd gone viral? How did you feel?
Well, I think at first I didn't know what that meant, and it was only as it unfolded over time in my everyday life, when neighbours were knocking at the door, people wanting selfies. Playing bakers, the butchers, the car mechanic, all that kind of stuff. And I just marveled that I've been doing comedy for 25 years and suddenly 1.5 minute video has given me a wider audience than I've ever had in all those years. So what an incredible thing the internet is for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Jeff, don't you think, because of the way the comedy industry is, and I know that things are picking up for you white civilian comedians, don't you think don't you think because of what happened to you that there's going to be almost like a hybrid of comedy where there are people who would want to keep in touch with people like you on the internet, and there are people who will still want to go to live comedy shows? It's going to be a combination of both.
Well, I think so. I think it's only 1.5 minutes, so people will get a little fun size example, a couple of jokes. But I'm hoping it will encourage people to go and watch live comedy, or to come and watch me, in fact.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I have to say to you, I am really disappointed with your bookcase.
Well, I'd say what happened is I haven't done many Zoom gigs during the lockdown period. And if I have done, I've gone to my friend's house because I don't really have a good signal here. It's okay for one-on-one Zoom chat. But also I realized that it means people can see inside your house. And I had a bit of old-fashioned stuff. I've got an interior designer in to give me a very trendy look of now. So it's all it's vinyl, which is very big at the moment. I don't think it's books. I think it's just music that you can see behind me. Apparently, that's what the kids go for these days. Vinyl.
Yeah. Yeah, it suits your image.
I didn't want it. You have to be careful because I've seen a lot of people doing Zoom interviews, and they would rather pretentiously position themselves in front of the philosophy section of their bookshelf.
But there is.
I do want to do that. I hope that doesn't come across. I want to say to all of your followers and citizens and fans of mine, this is the music room. So wherever I go, behind me would be music.
But you know what really disappoints me? It's not even the bookcase. It's the fact that you know that you are going to be with me and there is no poster of me behind. There's nothing.
Well, I've got to be careful because I'm not sure who else. I mean, I've got to tell you, I have to explain to people, I'm only doing this because you have my wife and family in detention for accusations of spying. So you said I'll get them off the hook if you come and do this interview. So I support you, President. You know that. Support you. And I'm sorry about the poster.
Yeah.
But I will get one.
And I have broken the record because normally if you had to do this, you will do this away from your home. But we made sure that you found a way of making sure your internet works.
Yeah, but it's still under house arrest. It's still house arrest, isn't it? So it's from my home. Yeah. I couldn't find a poster that did you justice, President.
No, that is just
that's why.
By the end of this conversation, I will let my people know whether we're releasing your wife and your children or whether we're still detaining them.
Sure. Well, also in that respect, in case I do have to separate from my wife, I always like to keep myself open for any future wives. So if there are any single older ladies from your country, let me just say that I could be single soon. And I've been to church today, all day. I know that older African ladies will give someone respect. I'm also, I mean, when I was younger, President, and I was meeting women from West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. It's very easy in those days to form relationships with women. There are one or two things that would be quite a lure. Tupperware containers. They were very popular. Food mixers, those food mixers when you're making soup, and pressure cookers. But I think the modern African woman wants more than that now. So I'm going to have to up my game.
You know what is really interesting is the fact that you've dated a number of black women from exotic places like Nigeria, Ghana, but you've never. Why haven't you dated someone from Laughter Republic?
Well, I think most of them are married to you. That's part of the problem. You've taken them as your wives, but hey, I'm sure we could work out some kind of arrangement.
But that is the problem.
I want you to help.
Most of them, since the election, became single, and I married them all. But it's good. Look, Jeff, I want to ask you a question about your comedy career. You said you started 25 years ago. What made you go into comedy?
I think that I'd always wanted to do comedy from when I was young. When I was a teenager, I was in drama groups and things like that. And on a couple of occasions, did some stand-up comedy in between the plays. Not my own material, just doing jokes that I'd seen when I was very young, 16, that sort of age. And then I went to work, and forgot about that. But I've always thought of myself as someone who's funny, always enjoyed making people laugh, always used that as a way of communicating with people. And so as I got older, and I think that I had to wait until I was older because there wasn't really a job in stand-up comedy when I was younger, not with alternative comedy anyway. So I think the whole business boomed when I got to a certain age. which was about 40, 41. So that's when I started doing comedy, which I don't think that would be allowed now, would it? That age, I don't think people are allowed. That's when they retire you now in comedy, 41. You're not allowed to start at that time. And so, but I just love doing that. I like making people laugh, and you know, found a way of earning a living through doing that.
So you were sorry, I missed that. What age? 31 or 41?
41.
Oh, so you started doing it full time at the age of 41?
Yes, I did. Yeah. In fact, I got for my 40th birthday, somebody bought me a comedy workshop, a course as a birthday present. So I did that, and then the following year started doing open spots. And yeah, at the time though, I was quite naive. I didn't realise that was old for comedy. And in those days, President, it wasn't so much of a young people's thing. It's become very youth orientated with audiences as well, and comedians. But luckily, my age is actually probably working for me now, because I think now that I'm older, there's probably a vulnerability now. You know, I limp on stage, I need hearing aids, so I'm not as edgy, maybe, and aggressive as I might have been at one time. So the older I get, I think the more cozy and cuddly and acceptable I've become. That's my theory, you know.
Yeah, cuddling a racist comedian who wants to
marry. Yeah.
Okay, lots of questions for you. This is
okay. Yeah, keep them coming, man. Keep them coming.
Lots of questions, because this is the only way I am going to release your wife and children.
Okay.
So if I heard you correctly, so between the age of 16 to 41, what were you then doing? Did you feel you were missing anything, not performing comedy during the ages of 61?
Well, obviously, because I hadn't really experienced being a stand-up comedian, it wasn't something I missed. But I think, like a lot of people that become comedians, there's comedy in their life at all times, in their personality, in the way they interact with people, friends, family, at work. And I was certainly somebody who was like that, probably to a fault, you know, driving people crazy. But stand-up comedy has always been part of English popular culture, TV. It's always been around us. So I think that's how I learned how to be a comedian, more so, just through osmosis, really, you know. But no, I didn't do any, you know, I didn't do any comedy until then, you know.
Wow.
I didn't even really go to comedy very much, but you know, I grew up knowing all the main people that were around in those days, you know, people like Les Dawson and Dave Allen and all of those people. I don't know if these names mean anything to you.
Yeah.
So stand-up comedy has always been part of British culture. In fact, when I've traveled the world performing stand-up comedy, because there are British people all over the world, and wherever there are British people or Australians or Americans, there's a stand-up comedy culture. So because of expats, that unfortunately I haven't been to your country to perform, because I'm not sure if any of the expats are still alive.
Well, it's not even being.
I mean,
Jeff, it's not even about expats.
Or in detention.
It's not even about expats. Nobody can be funnier than me. Nobody's allowed to be funnier.
Of course, I understand that. I wouldn't suggest that I would either. So I understand.
Jeff, but yes. You see, what I didn't realize until I brought you onto this podcast is that we have certain similarities, because I didn't start performing comedy until the age of 45.
Wow.
And I remember people saying to me then that you have joined comedy at the wrong age, that it's very, very difficult to be able to break in. So for me, the question is, when you started at the age of what prompted you to want to do it at the age of 41? I know you
well, actually, okay. So I left school at 16 and became a window dresser in men's fashion. Kings Road, Oxford Street, 1970s, part of the 80s. Okay, that was quite a glamorous job in those days, clothes and fashion and the Kings Road. But then in the mid to late 80s, I went to university because I wanted to do that. So I spent 5 years there, did one degree, then did another degree. And it was during that time, when I was doing my second degree, that stand-up comedy was becoming a booming industry. And I recognized that I could do it now because I always had to earn a living from doing comedy because I had children, you know. I couldn't just do it. I thought, it's a job here, and there was. And genres had just exploded. They were everywhere, the comedy stores. So I became an open spot. And of course, yeah, I was older than most of the other open spots, but still as naive and unknowing, you know, still making the same mistakes. And you know, and just love it so much that I've kept with it, and finally worked out how to do it after all those years. Because I think when you start, not really you a lot of the time, it's how you think it's you, and you find a way of doing it, and you can earn a living doing it. But if you persevere, maybe you can get it to be really you, and that's when it becomes magic for you, because you're telling the truth, you know.
And how long did it take you to know that, yes, you have actually got this absolutely right? How many years did that take you?
Well, I think maybe 15.
Seriously?
I think I'm a slow learner. Well, I think I got it right to some extent, you know. And then you just keep getting it more right somehow, I think. And even now, I still think I'm still not quite doing it in the way that I want to. There's still things that I need to do or work out in order to perform stand-up comedy in the way that I really would like. So it's always work in progress, in a sense.
You know what's really interesting? Because I heard this story as well, that the likes of Michael McIntyre, who you know, I'm sure, that he had to perform for at least 15 years and even went bankrupt before he actually made it.
Right.
Am I not right in saying that before the pandemic, the industry, it's like you really have to get there very quickly. They can't wait for you 15 years for you to be.
Well, I mean, no, I think you can be. I think lots of people are good enough to be on television or to close shows or to earn a living, even though they're not as good as they might go on to be. And I'm pretty sure there's lots of comedians that find fame quite early on. And then, of course, once you find fame as a stand-up comedian, you almost stop doing stand-up comedy and end up being on panel shows and chat shows and what you know, travel shows. So they become less a stand-up comedian. So maybe they're earning lots of money, they're having a great time, but maybe they could have gone on to be better comedians. I'm sure they're not worried by that, but I'm just saying, I think the fact that I haven't found fame in that way has meant that I've carried on developing my stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh no, it makes perfect sense, and it's not one that I have genuinely thought about in terms of, you know, the panel shows.
Sure. I mean, if you look at someone like Johnny Vegas, for example, which is not an example. I mean, he was a brilliant stand-up comedian, but most people who know Johnny Vegas don't know that he ever did stand-up comedy. They know him as someone from sitcoms or adverts or chat shows. Although, yeah, so he was somebody that was a fantastic stand-up comedian. But I reckon there are a few people out there that if they hadn't found fame would probably stay being a circuit comedian as I have, and maybe, you know, become even better. But they probably don't care, do they? You know, I mean,
do you think?
I mean, if you know, I think I'd rather have the money. I think sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Also, I think because look, here's another thing. How about this as a theory that because I've never really earned big money from stand-up comedy, I've only earned a living because I'm a circuit comedian.
Yeah.
That difference between being, even if you're a closing act that everyone books, the difference between being that and someone who's on TV all the time financially is huge. And I wonder sometimes if because I always need to go to work, I'm not somebody that can stop. I've always got my foot on the gas, developing the comedy, making sure gigs are good, wanting it to be good. And I wonder sometimes if comedians don't have that hunger still because they're more comfortable. It's possible.
What do you if one day, even if you're going deaf or you or you can't,
which I am, I am.
and someone says to you, Jeff, we want you on Life at the Apollo or on a panel show, you won't say no.
Oh, of course, and I'm not against doing television. I mean, I have done television. You know, the Comedy Store presents. I've done that many times. The stand-up show that the BBC used to have, Channel 4 when I first started. But I think lots of people do TV to that level when they're new. TV does like new people. So often when people are new, they get lots of TV work on stand-up shows. and they think they've cracked it, but they're just new TV fodder. That's all. So I had my experience of that. I've done some acting. I've been in TV programs and movies, but all the while I've been sticking with my stand-up and working out how I should do it, what I want to talk about. That's always been an ongoing project with me, and still is. Really,
Why do you think that the TV people tend to go for newer acts rather than comedians who might have been going for years?
Well, I think that it becomes about the relationship between agent and management and the media. So management are always looking for new, fresh faces. A manager's not going to want to take on somebody that's been doing it for years. So partly it's to do with that, I think. And of course, yeah, just new faces. We've seen those ones. Let's see some more people. So I probably, I may do TV again, but this video thing, this is a different medium, which actually I think has eclipsed TV in some ways in terms of you being noticed. This very video that's a minute and a half long. I would probably need to be on EastEnders for a year to get that kind of response.
Who knows? Maybe
there's something different about it being short, because it was beautifully edited by Simon Mason at the Comedy Store, and it has to be short. And also it's in people's houses. It's on their phones. There's a different relationship, isn't it? In the way that they're looking at it and taking it on. They're showing it to people at work, and that's how those short videos work and become viral. So maybe it doesn't matter now. I mean, I don't earn any money from the viral video. I mean, I more money, but
yeah, you should find, as you say, you're a local celebrity. How many? I know you've only got one wife. How many children have you got?
Well, I don't. I've got. Oh no. Four.
Oh, those are the ones that you know.
Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I'm not getting into this because in the past I have talked openly about these topics, and it has created a problem for me afterwards.
No. That is fine. Don't worry. That is fine. It's just
yeah. But four.
Okay.
Four.
So do they all find you funny?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I say my main child, the one that lives at home, who's 16, I used to take him to one or two places. If I was staying over, he'd come down with my wife and I'd put him in the corner. And he became a big fan of stand-up comedy, but I don't think he's that impressed with my stand-up comedy. He was a big Russell Howard fan when he was about 14. Then he moved on to Bobby Mayer. So he's quite a sophisticated purveyor of stand-up comedy, but I don't think he's that impressed. Also, with me, I still like to do dad jokes with him. So he's not getting my best work on purpose. But there's something great about doing dad jokes and watching your kids go, oh, that's terrible. Especially if you're a professional comedian. I don't think people realize professional comedians like to do bad jokes as well when they're at home. We don't all printing sort of great material all the time. In fact, here's the latest one. Was I'm laughing. So I'm just going to let people know it's not always that high standard. I came in and said to my son, I've just walked past the church, yeah? And there were a lot of birds in the car park. You know what they were, didn't you? Birds of prey. And, I think he was going to call childline. But at home, that's the sort of thing that makes me laugh. Yeah.
Certainly, you have been one of my funniest guests in terms of the conversations we've been having on the phone.
Okay, so who are you normally talking to then? I can't believe that.
Yes, no, it's been fun, Jeff. So you were very, very busy just before March 2020 when the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I was in South Africa.
Okay.
In the Cape Town Comedy Festival, but then came back to nothing.
How have you coped since over the last year?
Well, not very well with the first half. I think I see it in three sections. I think the first section was not good for me. Didn't handle that very well. You know, because I didn't think comedy was coming back. I don't know. I got it into my head that that was the end, and I wouldn't be doing that anymore. And I'm sure, like a lot of people, suddenly to have the thing that you love doing so much, it's not there anymore. That was very difficult. But then there were some outdoor gigs, weren't there? There was a little ray of sunshine, and I just seized on that, and that helped. But I think the viral videos helped me all the way through. You know, because I thought, well, I'm still sort of doing it, but not doing it. You know.
Did you do any driving gigs?
Pardon?
Did you do any driving gigs? Driving gigs?
No, I didn't do any of those at all. I didn't like the look of those. I didn't really enjoy doing the Zoom gigs. Actually, I didn't really do many. I found it wasn't very satisfying. I didn't enjoy it very much. And no disrespect to any of the people that saw me on Zoom. I think audiences still liked it, but I found it very unrewarding. You know.
Yeah. I enjoyed
any of those.
I did quite a few.
Okay.
At times I arranged some with my fans and citizens. I love the fact that I can imagine that they may be half naked watching me, and they imagine that I'm half
probably
naked.
are. Also, I imagine in your position where you are making them watch it in the sense that it's going through on their screens, and they have no choice.
Definitely, but I hear you. But
propaganda videos. But yeah, very hard. Very hard.
Yeah, I think what I admire is how the tenacity and how people have really been able to adapt to change. Because 1 year of no live comedy, as a comic, you want to find a way of interacting with your fans or new audiences.
Sure.
And Zoom gave people that opportunity. And
that's true.
And there's some comedy promoters who actually got the technology absolutely right.
Yes, they did.
You could actually enjoy.
Some of them were quite advanced and leaders in that field, weren't they? 1 or 2 people, they got it right straight away. I think it's here to stay, the Zoom thing, in some ways. There'll be people. I got cut off of the Zoom gig, actually. It was a private gig, and I was in the person's house, and it was his brother had organised the gig for his work friends, the office, and he was the office manager. And as I was talking, they cut me off because they thought that my subject matter might be inappropriate for his staff. He took the decision. I know. It's part serious? Of that new sensitivity that's around at the moment. Part of the cancel culture and the sensitivity around, because there are key words and sometimes people don't hear what you're saying. And like with that video, for example, I reckon that some of the people that really liked that video liked it for different reasons. I think some people that were racist thought, hey, wow, we've got this racist guy. Isn't he funny? And have interpreted it in a way that they've seen it. I'm sure that's happened. I'm sure that's because I think what made it go viral is the subject matter and the timing. It hit a nerve at the time. If you remember, the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on.
Yeah.
People were confused. They weren't sure what they thought. There was all the talk about this idea of white privilege that people didn't understand. So I think that video calmed people down.
Yeah.
Not intentionally. I don't think I could have ever second guessed that. It just happened to be subject matter. What's the word? Zeitgeist, I think. And I think that's what happened. So I guarantee some of those million people or however many people watched it would be people that thought, I love this guy, he's racist, and we love this racist stuff. I'm sure that's a bit like Alf Garnett, the character Alf Garnett.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Johnny Space.
I know Alf Garnett. Alf Garnett. You see,
so I like that. It's funny.
What's really interesting is before I came on for the podcast, I had a visitor. So I was playing your video, and he happens to be a very church religious man, very close to the pastor. And when he saw it and heard what you were saying, he said, he can't say that. I said, no, it's comedy. It's just jokes.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, stand-up comedy is still a medium, isn't it, to say stuff, increasingly so. But people all over the world are using stand-up comedy as a medium to make their point and to communicate, a bit like hip-hop in that respect, but I think that maybe it's, but I'm careful anyway, I realize how things may come across. So I think very hard about the words I use and the point I'm making, and so that, but it can still get misinterpreted. And often with stand-up comedy, people in the audience, they only have to look away for a few seconds. They'll miss part of the joke, and then get this part, and they think, oh, that's racist.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about the cancel culture, and
Okay.
and this. I don't support freedom of speech anyway.
Of course.
But having spent some time in England, I know there is this cancel culture and the view that you can't just go on stage and say anything just to be funny. What is your view on that? What is?
I think it's to do with social media, and I think it's an age-related culture of response. So I don't think there are lots of clubs I go to where the audience are much older, much more clued up, and they wouldn't be buying into that kind of attitude. But at the same time, fair enough to be up on stuff and to be active politically, Although I did get attacked as well. I mean, you see, this is where it goes wrong. I got attacked and accused of being racist, when obviously these members of the audience couldn't really see what I was talking about. They were very drunk and very young, and they accused me of being racist. The audience turned on them. They got up and left, and then I carried on. But then suddenly they were on the stage. One was trying to get the mic, one was trying to grab me, and they were being dragged off the stage by the staff. It became a big incident, But part of that sensitivity, that cancel culture, where we are dealing with people that don't quite understand what we're talking about a lot of the time, or don't see the nuance. Just hear keywords. Often keywords can be a thing. I often have to change words because they can create a response in the audience that you don't want. There's no good just going, well, that's the way I want to do it. You have to find a way of getting your ideas across.
Okay. So you've been doing comedy now for the past.
Don't forget, I started in the alternative world. I started in the post-mainstream world where it's all about being anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobia anyway. So in some senses, cancel culture is just a sort of social media name for something that we've been doing anyway.
Yeah. You've had 25 years of experience in the comedy industry. Has the industry changed for the better, or is it worse? Comedy in general?
I think it's got better. I think that comedy gigs are better. I seldom now go off to do a gig and come across an audience that I think are hostile or drunk or heckly or difficult. It hardly ever happens now, whereas that used to be every gig. You'd go to expect that kind of culture. So I think it's got better. I think audiences are better. There are more different types of gigs. Yeah, I think it's great. I do.
Am I right in saying my CIA, Comedy Intelligence Agency, they told me that you've studied comedy courses, haven't you?
Well, not studied comedy courses. I mean, I think what happened is I became, let's say for the first 10 years, I just did comedy because I could do it. I didn't think about it too much, had some good material, was earning a living, having fun. And then I began to think more about what I was doing and about comedy in general. And then part of that was to run comedy workshops for people that wanted to be comedians. And I did a workshop myself with Tony Allen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tony Allen.
I know Tony Allen. I know.
Architects of alternative comedy. He's quite a character. And he has very strong views about comedy as art. And I agree with most of his views, but it's about adapting that to entertainment, try and somehow meet it in the middle. It's still entertainment, it's still entertaining people. So I tried to carry on some of those traditions in my teaching to get people on the right foot, because I made lots of mistakes. I cringe sometimes at some of the stuff I used to do, some of the jokes, some of the material. I'm sure we all do when we look back. So I figured that I could help new people to not make those mistakes from the very beginning. I think the key thing, actually, President, is thinking about your comedy. You know, thinking about what you're doing, knowing what you're doing. Whereas I didn't do that for years. I just did it somehow, instinctively, because I was a bit of a funny guy. But then I thought more, analysed it, and I think I get more out of it. I'm a much better comedian, and I urge people to think about their comedy more. Have an agenda almost, you know.
What is your view? Naturally funny comedians? Can comedy be thought? Can you be thought to be funny?
I think you can, you can teach people to be funnier than they are. I'm not saying you can teach people to be funny who could never be funny. And in truth, sometimes on the workshops, there are one or two people that you know would never be comedians, but they might be good enough. There's one thing that has changed. When I started, I was an open spot, and there weren't really open spot clubs. You know, there were open spot parts of the evening, or you'd go to a club and be the only open spot. So your plan it was to not be an open spot and become a paid comedian. Whereas now you can stay being an open spot and do it as a hobby, can't you? There are clubs that cater for people at all different levels of ability and interest and dedication. So lots of people can operate on that hobby level if they want, you know.
A personal question.
Oh dear. Not about wives, please.
Yes, about wives.
What about churches? You know, I wanted to tell you, I've worked something out, and I think I don't go to church actually, but I've noticed that African churches thrive. They're thriving and building and developing, whereas English churches are closing down.
Yes.
And I think it's to do with practicality, because it seems to me that an African church can be anywhere. It can be, you know, in an old snooker hall, a disused warehouse, the local leisure centre. Whereas an English church, it takes 100 years to build. You know, they're chopping down forests to make the wooden pews. They're smelting metal to make all the stuff. You know, the crosses and stuff. And it's stonemasonry is involved. Whole generations of people hand their skills down in order to get this church built. It takes 100 years, whereas an African church, all you have to do really is just go down to being few, get some white plastic garden furniture, stick it in an empty hall, and that's sanctified. So that's why I think African people, they don't muck about. They want a church, we're going to have it there. And I like that.
Yeah, that is a good point. But I will tell you why I think African churches are really getting more successful.
Okay.
Pandemic. I've been to some English churches. I feel whenever I arrive at an English church, I feel like I'm going to sleep within 5 minutes. It's dead.
It's boring, isn't it?
It's literally dead.
Sure.
There's vibrancy. It's like they're waiting for
Sure.
you to die.
Now, there is a vibrancy. There's obviously there is a, you know, you are right about English churches. They can be boring. I don't want to get into denominations because I could get into trouble. You know what people are like. At the same time, you know, African churches are vibrant, but they don't always choose the best singers to sing the songs in the church, do they? Let's be honest. You know. And whoever's on the drums sometimes may not even have to have any drumming background.
Well, I'm just hoping that your wife that I'm detaining doesn't go to church. I hope you're not criticizing that church.
I think she's from a Catholic background, which is a whole different thing, and I don't want to get involved in that.
Yeah. I'm
not taking those people on.
Yeah, but the African churches that I believe you're referring to are the Pentecostal churches.
Yeah.
The music, I think the music has got
music all day.
No,
food.
Colorful, you know, vibrant. The energy,
Sure.
you know, the energy is like, you know, it's like when you're watching a comic on stage. There are some comics who just have that energy on stage. Yeah. You know, and the connection that they have with they're engaging with their audience, just really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you another personal question, but you might not want to answer, but I will.
Okay.
You have no choice, but I will ask you that. Have you always dated black women? You never dated white women?
Not always. I mean, when I was younger, I used to date Jewish women. I think I've always been attracted to the other, to foreigners. I don't know what sparked that off. What is that in my psychology? But this is what happens, though. If you do that, and I'm sure this happens to everybody, if you have one or two partners that come from a different culture, their culture then becomes part of your culture. So it's very difficult then to then go and date somebody that's nothing to do with that and has no familiarity with that. So certain things become part of my life. Food, for example.
Yeah.
You can't then go and ask an English woman to make jollof rice or moi moi. You can't. And once you're used to that, you think, whoa, I think I like this kind of stuff. So that's also part of it. Music, lifestyle. Ironically, not ironically, just pertinently, as we're just talking, I don't come from a Christian background at all. So that's probably the big difference, where there's no conflict, because where most African people, are religious and Christians. And I just think, wow, how funny that this is the thing that we've stopped doing, and people are coming into this country and doing it. That's always funny to me.
Mm-hmm. Now it's really interesting. So that favorite joke: once you go black, you never go back. That's
Sure. I've heard of that. Yeah. But, well, I think it's a bit more specific than that, President. It's not just black. It's African, and West African, and I mean my wife is from Sierra Leone.
Oh, nice.
And of course, her family's from Sierra Leone, and over the years you become accustomed to certain things. But what's really funny, what's very funny, and I don't know if she can hear me, so I might be whispering. No, this is
no, she's intended by people.
She's Creole from Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
So she's middle class, educated. Her father's a diplomat, or was a diplomat when he was alive. She had a driver, she had servants at home, that kind of background. I'm some white working class bloke who comes from a bit of a criminal background in the East End. And so it's funny, because I think people in a racist way assume that our differences would be that I come from the West and I'm more sophisticated, whereas it's the other way around. She's the person that comes from an educated middle class background. She has a very English accent. She can speak her own languages as well. But I come from my multiculturalism is actually more Jamaican in growing up. So we have situations where people, she has dreadlocks as well, by the way, more like a funky dread, like soul to soul, that sort of styling.
Mm-hmm. And
she gets hailed or approached by, say, Jamaicans or Rastafarians in the street, but she can't speak, whereas I can. So I have to interpret. I go, no, what? So sometimes we take little lessons. We go, right, if you get approached, you have to do this, you have to say that. And I think that's hilarious, because that's how culture works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm the person that would go and make a sandwich and not even have a plate or something, where she would she's proper and has finesse. So I think she probably sees me as some sort of poor white trash person that she's saved. Probably. I do.
Okay. Where I've heard stories about people who date outside their race. Lots of challenges, by acceptance by the society, acceptance by the families. Did you face any challenges?
Well, not really. I mean, when I was younger, when I was in my mid-20s, my wife at that time was Nigerian, and she was Yoruba. And so that was the first sort of relationship I had that was African, if you like, and not Caribbean. I don't think it's about race. It's culture that there's a difference, really. I think there could be cultural differences. But those things, really, religion could be the main problem. But usually the generation of women that I've met or known who come from an African background have not religious like their parents. you know, they've moved away from that, generally speaking. So, you know, maybe pepper soup is probably the biggest hurdle I've had to get over as an Englishman. When you eat it for the first time and you can't believe, you know, and you can't even think, your eyes are running and you're crying and your nose is running, but you still have to tough it out. But here's something I noticed, and I don't know if people still do this, is that one of the things that used to happen to me is when I was presented with food, because I was English, they put a knife and fork next to the food, and I figured that was some sort of test. You know? So I thought, if I use this knife and fork, I'm going to fail the test. I know that. You know? So that was an interesting little thing. That was an interesting.
You remind me of my student days in England, and I had this friend, this Englishman, who came to my house, and I cooked him some pounded yam and a goosey soup with some meat, and he tasted it, and within a few minutes, he just went straight to sleep. He just knocked him out.
Yeah, of course.
And then he woke up and said, "What did you feed me? What did you?"
Yeah, that's so funny. That's the pounded yam. So
that's
heavy,
the pounded yam.
You know what my wife did to me? Check this out. She really conned me when we first met. She, because I love ground rice. Okay, love ground rice, and she said to me, in my country, the men stir the ground rice. So she had me there for years and hours. You know, just breaking my arm, stirring the ground rice to get it right. And then I found out from her aunt that there's no such tradition in her family. She just gave me the labor work, you know, class. So it was a class difference where she sees me as some sort of servant.
But Jeff, you passed the test. You passed the test.
Yeah.
Look, Jeff, it's been a pleasure. You know, I have a criteria that if I am not enjoying the podcast, I need to usually stop within 30 minutes, 25.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. How long has this been going on then?
We have been going on for well over, it's almost an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't feel that I've contributed very much. Do you know that? I'm hopefully in the edit, you will make me look good. Can I just say my dog's talking to me because he doesn't realize, he's sitting next to me, my dog. And he doesn't realize, hold on. Okay. He doesn't realize I'm talking to somebody else. They can't work that out. So I'm next to him talking. He thinks I'm talking to him.
No. This has been about you, and it's been a comedy education. So I don't know why.
Oh, I hope so. I hope it's entertaining and informative.
It's
the people of your country.
No, it's covered so many things. The comedy, how your comedy started, your attraction to black women.
I know that you're gonna get me into trouble with this one. I'm gonna keep this one hidden. You know that.
There is look. You know what's really interesting, because you keep asking me whether there's going to be some editing. You know, I don't believe you Westerners. You always like freedom of speech, don't you?
Yes.
Editing is freedom of speech.
Okay.
It's
so you think you're going to be able to just run this through without editing? Is that what you're saying? You think?
I will just send it to my people and say, look, let's just publish this, including.
I'm happy with that.
Including where, you know, because this it's not your fault that your internet froze. This was more power supply.
Oh, there was that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all.
That's your Secret Service playing with
Secret Service.
Signal.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I have thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
It's no, look, Jeff, I don't think you realize how much I respect and admire you as a comic, but obviously getting to spend time with you has been an education for me.
Oh, thank you very much.
I tell you one thing, because you know I have been performing in the UK over the last 11 years. What resonates with me is what you said about thinking about your comedy. And it was only when I stopped during the pandemic, because there was no gigs, that I started thinking about my comedy. I started thinking about where am I going with this? And what I'm actually saying on stage. And it's just...
It makes a difference. Sorry, my dog's attacking me.
Yeah, it makes a difference, because
Sorry, that's a really important point. Let me put this... My dog's attacking me while you're saying something. Oh. Say hello to the president.
Hello. What's your dog's name?
The president there. Yeah.
Hello, dog.
No, let me put my earplugs back in, because Right. Um,
You want me to repeat what I said?
yeah, because I think that was a good point. Please
So what
repeat.
I was saying is that as one of the things that resonates with me is about you thinking about your comedy, thinking
Sure.
about what you're saying on stage, and what is it exactly you're doing in terms of your comedy. And I know before the pandemic, I was just busy, Jeff. I was always constantly busy over the weekend. There was no time to strategize or to think about my comedy.
Sure.
But then the opportunity arose during the pandemic. I had some time to actually reflect because there were no gigs, and I'm just thinking, okay, reflecting on the act, reflecting on the jokes.
Yes.
Jokes. I just thought, damn, how could I have said that?
Yes, exactly. I think we all go through those developments.
Yeah, so I
whenever it is, it's still good for that to happen.
and this is what is really interesting for me, and I'm not, I might be deluded, as a dictator, but while some people are worried about the fact that they haven't gigged for well over 6 months or 7 months and they might be rusty, I actually needed that break. I genuinely think I am act by just having that 1 year off.
Yeah, I think it's true. I worried mostly because I'm very big on momentum. I always think that you carry your development with you with every gig. You're thinking about it, trying to develop, trying to progress, trying to develop your material, new material, trying to develop the way you deliver your material, and all of those things all the time I'm thinking. And I think that they come with momentum. So I was horrified about there being no momentum, no gigs. But when I did go back, after a couple of gigs, I thought actually that break has been a good thing. I feel clearer now. I feel slightly different about the whole thing, more relaxed, as you say. So I'm hoping that will come with when we start back next week. And yeah, it's good. So think about your comedy all the time. What's your agenda? Why are you there? Okay, you're there. Why are you saying that?
And what's your best advice for newer comics? Because I in a way I feel very sorry for them, because I genuinely believe that the newer comics, especially those who started during the pandemic, haven't really had the opportunity go live and perform their material. They've been doing it on Zoom, and they're going to be horrified by their first live gig, I believe.
Well, that's if they get a live gig, because it seems to me they're going to prioritize established acts that they know are guaranteed for a while.
Yes,
because of smaller audiences and smaller bills. So hopefully, as I said, some of these other clubs that are not necessarily professional will give new people a chance to develop their comedy. But I couldn't give anyone career advice, but I could give them, one thing I've developed that I'm very big on, that sometimes I forget. I often think about, there's a big difference between comedy and acting. We're not actors, but at the same time, we often go out with a script in our heads. And how can we not just be actors delivering our script? And I think the key is to be in the moment for all times. And that means when you go with your script, move it around, add things, take things away, always be in that moment rather than just delivering a script. And I think that's something I have to remind myself of sometimes, to be in the moment. This is a different gig with a different audience. You might have the same body of material, but you might pitch it slightly differently. You might prioritize a routine over another one. You might start with something different. So all the time, be in the moment constantly would be my main advice. And it's something I write that at the top of a piece of paper before I go out, to stop me from just going out and delivering a script. So that's my big advice. Obviously acts that improvise all the time are in the moment, and they live and die by being in the moment. But we can't all do that. We're not all improvisational comics, but there can be moments. So have an agenda, think about your comedy, and when you perform, be in the moment. Know exactly where you are while you're doing that. Is that simple advice, do you think? Would that help?
That helps. That helps civilian comedians. It doesn't help a military dictator, but it helps.
I can't help you there, I'm afraid.
So, Jeff, I won't delay you any further. An hour away from your family and children is a long time.
No, that's why I've come here, to get away from them.
Yeah. So, while they're still with me, well, I have some good news for you. You have really entertained me. You have addressed a number of issues that I also wanted to find out about comedy, you know, because I genuinely haven't regarded myself as a comedian, just a president. And all these people just start. I remember one of the things I didn't say to my viewers and audiences is that it's not every time I I'm on stage with Jeff Innocent. You know, it's almost like once a year I get to meet him.
Yes, sure. I haven't worked with you very often, have I? But you're very good yourself as well. You know, the last time I saw you, you were amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Well, yeah, comedy is hard. Comedy is competitive.
Yeah, it is sometimes. Isn't it? It's hard to get right.
It's harder than running the country, I must tell you. Very, very hard.
Yeah.
But thank you for your compliment. So, folks, I'm going to release Jeff, and I'm going to say to Jeff that I'm going to release his wife and his children.
Thank you.
But what we are going to do, this is the deal. The deal is this, that I release his wife and children. Two things will happen. Number one, he will come and entertain us in Laughter Republic one day. He will have to travel to Laughter Republic, come to our city called Baghdad. I want Jeff in Baghdad. We will go for Jeff at Baghdad.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
I hope that once the lockdown is over, that we get to meet, because I've really enjoyed talking to you, Jeff. So maybe we can meet for a bottle of Nigerian Guinness and jollof rice. And just have a chat and not talk about comedy.
Palm wine. We'll have some
palm wine. Let's just go to an African restaurant. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that would be. I think that would be a good comedy sketch. I am dressed up in uniform. You look like a racist. We're going to the Nigerian restaurant together.
Yeah. Well, there is one near me. We could try it, actually. That would be funny. Hey, God bless you, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Folks, this is the end of our podcast. I hope you have enjoyed what has been a fascinating story. Look, one of the things I have enjoyed performing in the comedy industry is the number of people I have met. And there's still a long list of people. I just detain their family and I get them to my interview. So Jeff, you have a wonderful Sunday and stay away from hugging people from tomorrow. Thank you.